So I did things in slightly reverse order today. I actually made the coffee first because it was the coffee I had this morning, but I want to talk about this Proctor Silex glass coffee maker, but it's not entirely glass, and it's more like your electric coffee makers, except obviously it's glass. So how do they do it? It's actually a fairly ingenious design because the glass is in fact separate from the rest of it. So if you look at this handle here, clip that up, you saw it just kind of pop, and you can take the carafe right off. Honestly, this is the second of these that I've had. The first I knocked off a shelf and the carafe broke. But I held on to the other stuff, and I found this one at a thrift store yesterday or 2 days ago, missing the cap. And I happen to have the cap. So this is actually a married, it's not pure, it's not pristine, but it does work fairly well. I also replaced the plastic basket that it came with the metal basket from the first one. Now the basket's kind of interesting because it doesn't come off the stem, except it does. It's held on with, I don't know if you can see it in there, a little spring, which allows you to push it in, and it pushes up and down, and will stay on, which is honestly really handy because if you're going to dump it out after you've made coffee, you can, keep the stem on it. The coffee maker, or the carafe, has a hole in the bottom that I think you can see there, and that goes over this rubber seal here. So despite the fact that they're two separate pieces, this gasket fits nicely inside the hole, and the whole thing goes together. One thing I noticed with this is that it doesn't actually sit flat, it sits at a little bit of a curve. I think this model is slightly older than my other model because it doesn't have the light, and the other model also had some coloration difference. I may pull it up from the basement and talk about it before I put this all together. Anyway, the carafe goes back on, relatively straightforward. This goes down, and there it is. But as you can see, it still isn't quite square on the bottom. One other interesting thing about this coffee maker is the fact that the lid clips in and also clips onto the stem of the leaf blower outside, clips onto the stem of the basket with this little clip here, which corresponds with the button on the top. So you push on it, and it opens up and releases. And as you can see, there's a little ring that it clips onto here. Honestly, I've used this a couple times in the last couple days and have been really very impressed with it. So, especially if, for finding it for like $2.50 because it didn't have the lid. And this won't help me learn the lesson that if something breaks, I should just throw it away, because keeping the lid from the other one made this one functional. As you can see, it came with its original pamphlet, which makes me think that it was intended to come with a metal cap, just with a black top. And they make some pretty bold claims about what kind of coffee it's going to make. Another interesting thing about the lid is once you get it on, it doesn't fall off at all. And you can't just lift it off you can also see that it's got a little opening there. And with two hands, it will come off just fine. And you can see the little spring-loaded nubs there. And on the inside, there we go. There's the spring, keeping it's fairly taut, takes a decent amount of pressure, which allows it to stay on. I actually think this is a really well-designed percolator, and I've been really happy using it.